Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar on how to create uniquely customized backyards with pool lighting. We're excited to have you. We have some very special guests with us today to help you understand these following objectives. One, the challenges, watch outs, and considerations when lighting a pool, the best practices of designing a backyard with a pool, and how Pentair Pool lighting can help create customized backyard experiences. Allow me to introduce our speakers. Rick Chafee, renowned pool builder located in Chandler, Arizona. He's been the co-owner of Red Rock Design Build for over 20 years and has a plethora of experience designing pools with pool lighting in mind. Kirk Bianchi, landscape designer located in Scottsdale, Arizona, with decades of experience creating livable outdoor spaces. He's the owner of his landscape firm, Bianchi Designs. And Jeff Zillmer, product manager for pool lighting, who's been with Pentair Pool for 4 years and worked with LED lights for 20 years. But before we begin to dive into the specifics of pool lighting and hear from our experts, let's take a quick pulse check with a brief poll. As you can see, the question is, to what degree do you take pool lighting into account when designing or building a pool? Take a few seconds to get our answers in. Okay, great. Looks like we have a mix of answers. A lot of people, predominantly all the time, which is a good group for this. Hopefully, for those of you who said you don't take pool lighting into account, you'll get some tips and tricks to take back into the field with you. Let's now dive in and hear from our experts to see how we can better incorporate pool lighting into our pool designing. Please welcome our speakers, Kirk Bianchi and Rick Chafee.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. Hey, thanks for having us, guys. We're glad to bring this information to you. As I was preparing this slideshow in the last few weeks, and then I went to an art show this last weekend to take a break, the subject of pool lighting followed me. Check out this this painting that I saw on the wall, and I had to check this out. It was a Ferrari was putting on an art exhibit here, and this caught my eye. I wanted to share with you. And I found this artist, Eric Nash. Eric Nash is his name, out of California, and he's really focusing on iconic scenes inspired by California, realistic images. And he's got a really nostalgic vibe in his character of his work, and it resonates with what I need to share with you because it's a significant detail. You know, these iconic moments that are typically mundane, he elevates to an artwork. And wouldn't you know, it's not just signage and gas stations that he's taking from mundane, the psyche of America, and making it art. He has a whole series of images on what a swimming pool looks like in the mind of Americana, as we call it. And it's significant for our conversation because our clients grew up with this. They loaded in the station wagon, went to California, and had fond memories growing up. This is burned into their mind. And as builders, this is burned into our mind oftentimes of a precedent of what pools look like and what the lighting looks like. So it's, you know, you're looking right into the deep end of a pool with the light shining right at you and there's no background at all, is one of the things that I want to move us past. I'm sure a lot of you have already overcome this, but this is a real thing of what people have in their mind of what lighting should look like in a vessel or a pool. And a lot of things have been hanging on this precedent that we want to maybe depart from or critique. Should we hold on to it or move past it? So a new idea I want to invite you guys to think about is this this is a historic vibe, but what can we do in the modern day? And let's maybe leave this in the past and graduate past it. And how do we do that? Because we now have tools that will enable us to go to another level that just have come to the market just recently. So here we go. And we want to talk about these baby boomers, a lot of them that experience the station wagon vibe with their parents traveling to Motel 6 and seeing all these pools. They've moved past that. They've graduated and they want more than just a pool. They want an entire experience in an outdoor environment. And lighting is integral with that because you're outside at night even more. So this was a remodel I had a chance to work on. We converted it to an environment that was working cohesively together, and lighting was part of that. This is what our clients expect by day, but also by night. And so the tools of lighting are imperative to get a grasp on and understand, not just for the pool, but for the whole environment. We're going to give you some pointers on how to do that today.
Well, the big thing we've struggled to do with the lighting world of swimming pools is we haven't had a lot. We've had some color options, obviously, over the years, and we've graduated to smaller lighting options using LEDs, but we didn't have much more flexibility past that. And we'll get into the amazing pieces and parts that the newer lighting systems are bringing to the table with this new Pentair system. But the other thing we talk about, one of the things that gets missed in the industry is we've gone away from big brass light niches or stainless light niches and brass conduits. And what happened is that used to bond the water. So the water itself and all the equipment and some of the electronics or anything metal around a pool, the NEC requires us to bond that. So it's all connected together. So there's no potential difference between any one member of anything within a pool. Well, the way we used to also bond the water was the light niches, and those have gone away in majority of projects. And so it's critical for everybody to understand that you now have to make a way to bond the water. So if you've gotten rid of these niches for safety purposes, we have to bond the water. There is some skimmer companies now that have a bond plate that we can do it to. If you've got brass cup anchors or such in a Baja shelf in the water, it'll work. Heaters do have a bond lug into the heat exchanger. And that can work unless it's something that can be isolated between the pool and the spa, because once it gets isolated to one body or the other, we've lost bonding in one place. So there's many options. This is one of the most universal option that we can get out in the market very easily, and we can use it inside a skimmer, special fittings, or even actually slide it into the bottom of a pump through the drain plug. So just be aware as the industry moved away from larger lights into smaller lights, we've completely forgot about the fact that we got to get the water bonded to. We need 9 square inches of water in constant contact with water that's also bonded to the pool shell, the structural steel, anything within 5 feet that's metal, all electrical components around the pool and all equipment. So just keep that in mind.
Cool. And then this game changer element that I really want, if there's one thing I want you to take away with, if you're not latching on to how important this is, with the advent of dimmable pool lighting, we have a gigantic opportunity that is unprecedented in what we can do with our lighting that we did not have before. Rick, talk about these lumens this is what we had to lean on in the past.
Yeah, with very little information, and many pool lights don't give us any lumen information, especially in the LED world. So I've been promised that the Pentair system is going to give us some lumens, which allows us to at least have a base starting point. And so this is a base guide that we use from a couple different code requirements. Majority of this is based purely on safety. Has nothing to do with ambiance, with beauty, with proper design of pools, but it gives us a starting point of how much light should be in each portion of the light or in each portion of the pool. And so it gets enforced quite a bit more on commercial pools. I've actually never seen it enforced in a residential pool, other than many jurisdictions require a light is kind of written in their code, no specifics, but use this as a guideline to get started with enough lumens. The biggest problem of if you're following these guidelines, like Kurt pointed out, is up until very recently, we could turn the lights on or off. And so they're either blasting everything with too much light or we have nothing. And so, we'll show you some images as we go through. You completely detract from the beauty and the depth of a yard and a space if we blast one portion or any with too much light, whether it's plants and trees and nothing else, or just the pool. And so the ability of the new lighting system that Pentair is providing is we actually get ability to dim those lights and then can make it all balance better. I'm just going to jump in because we did get a quick question in the middle. Someone asked, doesn't the pool steel bond? the structure. It absolutely does. The pool steel is part of the bonding, whole bonding system. However, the water itself is not touching steel anywhere. And so we have the water itself can have its own potential separate from a handrail or some electric component or something metal around the pool. And when you have a differential of potential, it's the same difference if you slid your feet across the carpet and touch a door and you get shocked. The reason that happens is there's an equipotential difference. What we need to do is eliminate the difference so there is no shock capacity. And you can get all kinds of different transient voltages around or within a backyard from overhead power lines, underground transformers, a number of reasons. So the water itself also has to have a bond. And the only way to do that is to make sure there's 9 inches of steel or conductive material, not steel, but conductive material in constant contact with the water. That's why we're talking about bonding in addition, because that all got removed when we got rid of steel niches. And the majority of pool structures now have 0 metal in constant contact with water.
Cool. So let's develop this dimmable facet that we now have with lighting that's so, as an artistic person, is a game changer for myself. Rick, you provided this image. We're talking about dimmable and zoned lighting and how to adjust that. You want to speak on this image some, Rick?
Well, I think it's a fairly good composition. That's why I kind of chose this image. It's got a reasonable amount of balance, but the big outlier is these really bright bubblers, right? If you look at this picture, you're naturally drawn to the bubblers, and it takes away from the balance behind. And the thing that happens with, Kirk will talk about it. We used to take pictures with some of our custom pools that look better because of professional photography. They actually weave together a dozen or so images from different lighting levels and even paint the floor of the pool with light to get to an image that the eye can recognize. So our eyes are able to transition from light and dark. It takes time, but if you walk into a dark room from a really bright outside, it's uncomfortable, and vice versa. It's worse if you go from a dark space to bright. Your eyes take time to adjust. When we have a landscape composition, as we look here, you lose some of the balance and it starts to feel uncomfortable. You don't even realize it's uncomfortable, but you see those bright spots. When you look up, your eyes have to then adjust so that you're looking at the background, but you can't really value the entire composition. So what we're talking about is, if we, in this composition alone, if we did nothing else, but we dimmed down the bubblers, and then there's one little spotlight behind by the fireplace, if we had that either out of the view, lighting an element versus just being a light, the entire comfort level of looking at this composition would be 100% better.
Yeah. I've got some great before and after shots to show you an experiment we did in the field. So you'll feel what we're talking about immediately. So this is what we want to avoid. This is the American Vacation Americana experience. And when you understand contrast, you realize if you swim across this pool, all eyes are on you. It's not a comfortable vibe. And who wants to be seen in center stage? It's very bright and it's blowing out the entire space. So how can we move beyond this? A big deal in art and photography is foreground, middle ground, background, all have to work in concert together. And in our industry, we are hyper focused on the foreground and the middle ground. You drop in a vessel, then you figure out how to put stuff around it. That is a backwards approach. If you approach it that way, you're going to be almost taking the background layer as an afterthought. And that's what we see when we look through the world. We're looking at the background. So in our conversations historically through the decades, should the pool even be lit in a perfectly landscaped environment? Until now, the answer was no. Keep the pool lights off, do a beautiful landscape, have it reflected in the pool, and only turn the pool on when you need it for entertaining or the kids are in the pool for safety. But the pool was a mirror, has been our approach historically. So here's what we would say, be careful of. This is, again, as Rick explained, really bright bubblers can blow out the foreground. Try to look at something else. I dare you, and your peripheral vision will suck you back to these bright spots magnetically, and they did not light a background. So here's that case in point where the background wasn't designed, nor was it lit, and you're fixated on the bubblers in the foreground. So this is what I want to enlighten you on and have you take into your next design.
And
here's that article. You want to talk about that, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, it terribly shrinks the entire yard. So for all we know, there's a 2-acre backyard with other amenities. And if we highlight any one too much, we've taken away the depth and maybe the comfort of the size. And sometimes we can make little yards look twice as big by, again, balancing the entire composition. If we get focused on one area, whether it's backdrop or foreground, we've lost the depth and the comfort feeling. And this picture does a perfect example of, it looks like we're maybe forested. If you like look beyond those lights, we could be sitting in a huge forest, but we've shrunk the backyard down to a box of water with two bright lights and take away from actually that whole composition and the pool benefiting the composition. At this point, in my mind, all this beautiful work they did took away from the comfort of the backyard, and we can't even, we don't see it. We don't get any value out of it.
This may be spectacular by day. Everything changes at night. There's no neutral ground with lighting. You can take a beautiful thing and ruin it if your lighting is horrible. So I really want you to really go deep on lighting, because you can take all your efforts and they come to naught if you don't really light them well. So it's not a neutral subject. Bad lighting will hurt your design. So really pay attention to it. This is that article where Rick mentioned professional photography. The lighting in this pool is what we wished we could have done until now. These are multiple exposures layered together to create one image. And this is what we wish it looked like: foreground, middle ground, background working together. Well, Jan in the bottom right corner, lighting designer, we got wind of these dimmable lights, and then we kind of had a bet. You think we can do something better with dimmable lights? And she felt, I don't know, because we're always striving for reflection. So this is a project I got to remodel with Rick. I stepped out on this back patio and I was like, yes, my iconic tree. But look at all this white glare, and the Tom Selleck mustache of a planter across the pool that used to be a pool cover. They wanted to add a spa. So this is what we brought it to become. We peeled away the deck. We put in lawn to take the brightness and the glare down by day. We had Jan come out and do a spectacular lighting on this mesquite tree that was there. And my God, the reflections are unbelievable. And the pool light is off. So we did a study. We went back, and here's these breathtaking reflections. But it's hard to see the pool. Where is there even a pool there? So the pool doesn't yet have a play in this conversation. We wished it did, but we can't get rid of our reflections, right? So we dropped some dimmable lights over the side at 6 feet on center. First, I'm going to show you 12-foot spacing, 15 watts, which is what we had to work with at the time. And you can see there's a dark area in between that we wished wasn't there. But do we need any more light? No. So, okay, we live with that. Notice the first light is really hot and bright on the floor because it's shallow. Yeah, it's kind of what you get. The floor is changing. So we didn't have a lot of control, and notice the reflections are gone. So we turned it over, and okay, we're using blue. It's a nice color with nice atmosphere, but it's still bright. So when you go back and you drop in dimmable light fixtures at twice the spacing, half actually, 6 feet on center. This is 3 watts instead of 15. You now notice the pool. Now I know on your screen this probably looks so subtle you can't perceive it. Being there in person, this is a romantic vibe. This is beautifully balanced with the background. If you take it up a notch to 60% setting, did it go? Yeah. This is actually, I think, 6 watts at 60% setting. This is what you would call pool party mode, where it's okay, it's brighter, it's definitely, I can see the vessel, but I still see the reflections. We did not lose the reflections, and so we have this coherent foreground, middle ground, background. And on your screen, this might look subtle, but when you're immersed in this setting, it's unbelievable, and the ambiance is off the charts. And it's balanced.
When you finish, let me talk on that photo when you're done, Kurt.
Yeah. Go ahead. That's our brightest setting. That was the 100% 3 watt setting.
So the new piece of another upgrade we're going to get is when we always struggle to light shallow water. And so a perfect example is this pool. Even with smaller micro brights that we've used or similar sized fixtures that aren't dimmable, if we try to light the shelf, it's it'll blow out immediately. There's no way to keep that in constant level and balance with the balance of the pool. Now with 1/2-inch size lights, we got a lot more flexibility in the location of lights, obviously, but we also can change colors separately because we're going to have some zones to work with, and Pentair is going to go through that late in a minute. But we can also dim them and get them perfectly balanced with the other lights. And so we can take a light in the shallow end and dim it, and in the deeper end, brighten it up. In the real shallows, we can use a whole separate zone. So we're going to be able to take even what we already did here to a completely different level going forward.
Yeah. It's to individually control the lights, like the one that was too close to the floor, that was too bright a minute ago, that could be backed off and it would be balanced. So this was a fun experiment, and we were able to retain our reflections. That was a good day. That was a big day for the artsy world. We were very happy, and so I want to pass it on to you. Now, this conversation, the precedent of this is assuming you're designing your background, and I want to touch on that. You know, if in that first Americana picture, the background was 100% black and the pool was blowing out, there was no background. So I'm asking you, as artists in the backyard, design your background first, because that's going to give you something to light in the foreground, middle ground, background scenario. So here we are at Rick's project that myself, we're designing. This tree goes in first, and the spa is not the subject of this painting. It's the silver platter upon which we're getting a reflection of the tree that you see from the front door. So this background becomes the flower arrangement, if you will. The pool is like a glass table in the foyer. So now you have things to light: foreground, middle ground, background. So by night, this is illuminated, and it's an entire composition that works together. Notice the pool lights off because that's what we had at the time. So in lighting the background, as you're thinking about landscape lighting, try not to ever see the fixtures. They're hidden behind walls. They're cross lighting. They're not shining at you. So we're cross lighting the spa, that those can be shut off. So when you're in the spa, you're not getting them in your face. But we're showcasing the spa. We're strategically placing the landscape lights to create this background. And then when the pool light comes on, it's a different vibe. We've lost our reflections. The spacing worked out on this one because the pool is curved, and so they're kind of converging. We have probably, I think, a 10-foot spacing on this one.
Yep.
Rick, talk about these lights here.
Well, again, I think one of the things you already brought up that I think as designers and pool builders, we got to be much more in tune to is the pool does not have to be the main aspect. You know, there's so many other things happening. We got to make it work together. And in the pool industry, we continue to do that. We drop a pool in first, and then we're working around it. And often the clients want the same thing. They've already, the first thing they do is show you their pool, right? How do we do that? So, you know, pools like this, when we start balancing and working together, we can create a totally different vibe for everybody. And the other thing we often have to remember is you don't use your pool every day, every night, or most of the year, and no matter what climate you live in. So all winter long, if you're not heating your pool, we're not using our pool. Shouldn't we make sure that in the setting it's in when it's not being used as a swimming pool, that it's adding to everything in the background? And so when we talk about design and selling pools and building pools, you should be designing the pool to be used every day of the year as the backdrop to a beautiful environment, or a big addition to a beautiful environment. But you got to be taking that into account from go. You want to make sure that we've designed a backyard with a swimming pool that can get used every minute of every day when they look out back, versus you designed it as a pool to be used when they swim, right? It actually gets used probably 95% more as a visual impact versus a swimming pool.
Yeah.
And Kurt's just showing a number of how this project's lit. This project took us probably 4 or 5 different night sessions as well, Kurt.
Yeah, going out at night. Your eye is the ultimate judge. You put fixtures on a plan. That's just so you know what to order and bring out to the field. And then aiming and placement at night is, you know, just using a laser pointer by day to get it close. Well, going back at night will tell you a whole nother story. So I really recommend, you know, you just got to change your sleep schedule on those days, because it's a night job, you know, for those few days. But wow, you know, what you can achieve is pretty glorious. So it's fun to do. It's really fun.
But don't get trapped in what you see for landscape lighting in other places, or pool lighting in other places. As Kurt pointed out, look at all the different directions we're lighting this project from. including the pool. And then when we get into the pool, you need to use the same comprehension. Don't put, don't put a big light in the deep end like we used to, or just a light here and one in the spot. Like, think through how that light's going to be seen and where it's going to be seen from, so that it actually accents the project. It's not just, I drew this gorgeous backyard and, oh, I got to put a pool light in, so here's the light. So it really does matter where we set them. And then even in this light, if we were to nowadays with options for lighting, if we would have moved that light to the left up just a little bit, we've set them at standard depth. Well, if we moved it up 6 inches, which we're allowed to do now because we have some LED light options, is we would actually light the top of that shelf too, and maybe not create that shadow background and see a little bit more light on the Baja shelf, or we could have done some real small lights on the Baja shelf. So these are projects that came out glorious, that are only going to be, going forward, will be exceptionally better because of some of the flexibility we're going to be able to be provided with the new lighting options.
Yeah, this is fun. So hopefully you're getting inspired for the possibilities. I'm going to throw a few artistic takeaways so you can add this to your vocabulary. What we've been talking about is called, in photography and art world, they call it greatest area of contrast, GAC. Our eyes are looking for edges, because edges are dangerous. You're gonna roll your ankle off a curb or down a flight of stairs. You perceive edges by contrast, light against dark, light against dark. Think of a stairway in the sunshine. They're highly magnetic to your eyes. We're hardwired to look for them. Try to look at the 3 gray squares and not divert your eye to the black. You can't. Your peripheral vision is sucking away. It's getting pulled in like gravity towards the black. You flip it at night. Try to look at the 3 circles. You can't, because your peripheral vision is slamming your eye. I got to see what this bright thing is. That's how magnetic things are. So if you take that idea, where is my subject in this composition? That's where your brightness should be. That's what gets the most illumination. If you have something too bright off the page, you're detracting from the story. You're pulling your eye towards something you don't want to be looking at, because you've put the light too brightly in an area that was not center of the universe. Another principle, repetition, is also highly magnetic. Your eye can dance around this painting or this picture effortlessly because of the weaving of the blue ice. It's just stitched together like a thread through a garment. Did you notice the horizon and the mountains on the vista? No. They're too diminished. What your eye cannot not look at is the blue ice. Okay, that's the repetition thing. Now, here it's somewhat random, but what happens if it's not so random? Try to look at the city skyline. You cannot, because it's repetition and contrast paired together. Well, how does that apply to lighting? I'll show you. We do it all the time. Softly, when it's fading from light to dark, you feel rhythm and it's pleasant, like the waves coming in and out. But when it's done in an acute kind of way, bright against dark, bright against dark, it's a strobe light effect. And my gosh, if we had to deal with that in pool lighting forever, you get a hot spot on the floor and then dark, a hot spot on the floor and then dark. And it is absolutely magnetic to your eyes. You cannot look at anything else in the scene. It's that powerful. So really pay attention to landscape lights, stair lights, path lights. Those are the worst offenders. But then check out this scene, how beautiful it is by day and how intensely obnoxious it is at night because of the strobe lighting vibe, that the light against dark, contrast mixed with pattern. It's very intense. And so this is what your spacing of lights and your dimmability is going to help overcome. This has been an Achilles heel of lighting forever. And you want to avoid the strobe light effect at all costs because it's so intense. And be careful of the light in your eyes. You might have it from one vantage point, but go around the yard, check the other vantage points. You don't want headlights in your eyes. You might want to control those independently. For instance, it's common sometimes to uplight a sheer descent or a water feature from the floor up, but often they're very bright and intense. Here, Jan and I were at a project that Rick and I did where the light's attached to the wall behind a tree and it's got a shield on it. The glare shield is vital, so you never see the brightness of the light. Instead, we have cross-lit the trees and the water scuppers to get this effect. It's not from the vessel. So if your world is pool centric and you're thinking, I got to light the scuppers from within the floor or from within the fixture itself, I want you to go beyond, go outside of the pool and shine diagonally. Think of a bank shot in pool. You want to bounce the light on the feature and bounce them into your eyeballs. So where we're standing, it's the what's that inverse angle? The angle of incidence equals the angle of reflection. Physics, remember that? It's just a bank shot from pool, all right? So your fixture location in the landscape wants to hit the water feature and come to where you're sitting. And you'll get this shimmering effect rather than the vessel shining up. Any thoughts, Rick? We're getting towards the end of our talk. Those are the key principles we want you guys to have.
Well, the other thing we're gonna add with the pool lighting stuff, you know, that's part of the pool lighting piece is we'll be able to do some of these things with some of their out of water lights. Their small lights are out of water. So if we are trying to change theming and change if it's a party or it's some types of, you know, if you want light to be more dominant depending on what you're doing, we'll have also some benefits to be able to light these kind of scenes from the landscape with very small lighting systems that are also directly tied into the same system the pool's tied into, giving us a myriad of colors. And so I feel like I've spilled the beans a little bit on a couple of things that Pentair lights are going to provide, but I think there's a lot to what they're going to bring to the table in the next couple of minutes. But it's going to give proper designers and artists an extreme advantage in any composition of landscape and pool. And I think I think that's important to discuss the pool lighting because we're doing a pool lighting presentation, but as Kurt's brought up a dozen times, it's critical to light everything properly instead of one thing amazingly, right? If we do too much to any one, we've ruined the rest. And that doesn't benefit the client or the backyard or the feeling you get. And the contrast that he talks about, the biggest problem with contrast and with lighting at night is it requires your eyes to keep adjusting to look from one space to the next. And so then you, regardless of the fact that you want to focus on edges, you actually lose the ability to see the peripheral if you're staring at bright systems. And because then you have to kind of block them from view to get your eyes to adjust to see the depth of the yard. And so there is a very important balance to the lighting of everything to get it to come together in an effect that is brilliant. And so the ability to do that, the tools that we're going to provide from the seminar, you're going to take what we've discussed, and then now you have an actual product that you can apply a majority of those good ideas.
Yeah, the dimmable fixture may not have seemed like a big deal. You know, that's nice. No, it's epic. So take that away and use it. This is an image that Jan Moyer did. You don't see any fixtures. That's the holy grail of lighting in the pool and the landscape world. And if you want to learn more and get immersed in that, I'm going to go see some of her class. She's retiring. You got to catch her while you can.
Yep.
At the top of her game, almost 50 years in the business, wrote these books, Landscape Lighting and the Art of Landscape Lighting. She founded ILI, International Landscape Lighting Institute, in order to clone herself. She's doing her last presentation in Nashville in May. And so if you can make it to Nashville and get a hands-on workshop and add this to your repertoire, not just for pools, but landscape lighting, then you will have a cohesive product where your pools are going to rock. Everyone's going to say, look at that pool. And it's because it's a cohesive environment. So with that, I want to hand it back to Scott and crew and let them talk about the aspects of their hardware and features.
Okay, thanks so much, Kirk and Rick, for sharing. It's great stuff. If you don't mind, please stick around for the question and answer session we have coming up in just a bit. We'll now transition to hear from Pentair Pool directly. Please welcome Jeff Zillmer, who is a product manager for lighting at Pentair Pool. Take it away, Jeff.
Thanks, Scott. Happy to be here. You know, pool lighting and lighting in general has really made significant progress and strides in technology over the last couple decades. And today I'll tell you specifically about how Pentair has forged ahead with lighting pools. We just launched our latest innovation, the IntelliVibe pool lighting system. So let me walk you through the features and benefits and explain how IntelliVibe enables customization of backyard pools. First, millions of colors. The color wheel in the Pentair Pool app gives users 15 million different colors at their fingertips. The color changes happen instantly, So when the pool owner touches the color wheel on the app, the lights change without delay. Next is dimming. Dimming, as Kirk and Rick pointed out, is a highly useful and anticipated feature, especially in pool lighting. Dimming allows users to set the mood or crank up the energy level. IntelliVibe's dimming is actually available in all modes. So whether the pool lights are set to color or white or one of our dynamic color shows. And the lights are actually capable of dimming in very precise 1% increments from all the way from 100% brightness down to 10% brightness on an easy to use slider. So this gives pool owners, very precise incremental control of their dimming, of their brightness levels, and really enables them to use some of the techniques that Kirk and Rick mentioned in achieving balance between the light levels of the pool and the light levels of the landscape and the other features in the backyard. Next is multi-zone control. So this is another feature the IntelliVibe system has that really opens up the possibilities for customization. You can independently control up to 4 zones that you can light up in different ways. You can set them to different colors. You can set some zones to color shows and some other zones to solid colors, for example. You can set the different zones to different brightness levels also, or you can leave some zones completely off if no lighting is needed for the situation. Next is warm white and cool white. So I mentioned the color wheel and the millions of different colors, but some pool owners prefer just the simple elegance of white light. So IntelliVibe users can choose white light. They can choose a range of white from crisp, bright, cool white all the way to a really warm glow of warm white. And it's done on a slider, just like the dimming slider. IntelliVibe lights have red, green, blue, and white LEDs. So the dedicated white LEDs really produce a very uniform, natural-looking white color with just enough of the red, green, and blue to shift that color point to the cool white or the warm white or any white in between. Color shows. So we've expanded our color show library to include 12 different shows. We've kept some of the Pentair legacy shows, but we've added several more fun new shows. The color shows just loop through various colors and color themes for a more dynamic poolscape. And schedules and timers, so users can easily set the vibes with setting schedules or using the timer function. We've included a vacation schedule, which can be programmed to expire after a certain period of time. And of course, all the features are accessed conveniently from the Pentair Pool app. So it's the same app, a single app that controls all of the Pentair equipment to control, the users use the control and they can do it remotely. We're launching IntelliVibe with 3 light sizes to suit a variety of pools and applications. Those sizes correspond to the performance levels and the amount of light they produce. First is the IntelliVibe Micro. The Micro is a 12-watt light, very similar to our current MicroBrite product. It mounts in the same 1.5-inch standard return fittings, and it's recommended for lighting all areas of the pool, spa, sun shelves, bubblers, etc. Next is the IntelliVibe Mezzo. The Mezzo is the largest of the IntelliVibe lineup. It also mounts in standard 1.5-inch return fittings. The Mezzo is a 24-watt light, and it's twice as bright, twice the lumen output of the Micro, so it's ideal for lighting larger pool areas. And then finally, there's the IntelliVibe Nano. The Nano is the smallest size in the IntelliVibe family. It can provide accent lighting to smaller areas of the pool or steps or sun shelves. It's only a 2-watt device, so it doesn't require water cooling, which enables it to be used outside of the water for water features outside the pool, water or landscape features outside the pool. So if there's a grotto or a rock pile or a back of a waterfall that needs to be illuminated, the Nano is a perfect choice for that. Now we're going to see the IntelliVibe in action. Let's look at Rick's pool. We have 3 different zones lit up in Rick's pool. Zone 1 is the main pool area. That's illuminated with 3 IntelliVibe Mezzo lights. Zone 2 is the bubbler area, and that is illuminated with 3 IntelliVibe micro lights. There's also another bubbler zone over to the right, the far right. And then zone 3 is the water wall in the back there, and that's a great example of using pool lights in a slightly different manner or a slightly different application other than the pool. So this zone has 4 IntelliVibe Mezzo lights mounted in the basin and illuminating or shining straight up at that textured water wall, illuminated the wall and the water as the water flows down the wall. Now we're going to go through a few more vibes that can be created with the system. Again, using Rick's pool as an example, we're going to ask for some audience participation here. When we flash up some of the pictures on the screen, go ahead and enter in the chat what vibes these pictures bring to mind. So first one here. One side of the pool is blue, another red where the bubblers are, and then that back wall is lit up stars and stripes white. Good. This got some good responses coming in. Let's look at the next one. Okay, so the next one, we have some pastel colors. What does this bring to mind? What kind of vibes? Easter vibes, good. Anything else? Soothing, relaxing, good stuff. Spring, I like it. 4th of July, wait, that was the last one. Okay, how about the last scene here? Goblin green, witchcraft purple, pumpkin orange. What kind of vibes does this scene bring to mind? Okay, I think everyone has it. Some good stuff coming in. Halloween. Yeah, so these pictures are just different examples of ways you can use your pool, the IntelliVibe lighting system to customize your pool to whatever holiday or season or event is happening. Thanks for all the input. As you can see from the pictures, there are many different vibes that you can create with the IntelliVibe system. Take your customer's pool to the next level by considering IntelliVibe. It's their pool, it's their vibe. You can find out more on the IntelliVibe system at pentair.com/IntelliVibe. You can interact with some of the cool modules that you see on your screen now. These modules show the different app functions and some of the millions of different vibes that you can create with the IntelliVibe system. And also the website, you can access more marketing materials and product imagery. Thank you so much. Scott, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, that was amazing. I learned a great deal. And I really like to thank our speakers. This is really one of the best webinars that I've been a part of in my career here. We're going to review our 3 main takeaways. We now have 10 minutes for questions. what are some questions that you all might have about Pentair's lights and how to design a pool with pool lighting? Please enter those. We've already had a few, and we'll start with the first one. Can you reconfigure existing lighting with IntelliVibe lights? What makes it easier to do this with Pentair?
Scott, can I answer that for you?
Absolutely.
So I'll answer a couple other things I see as being questions, but one, the pool of mine that we're showing, that was a retrofit. The standard size light fits in a standard niche like you would normally have. The mezzo still fits in that standard hole. It's threaded 2.5 inches, and then they make, if you want, they actually make a couple different discussions to make it retro. So they are easily brought into an existing pool system. The other thing I think that's going to be important, I see some questions already asking, and is, so each controller can control 4 zones, but there's a couple benefits to that. One, each controller requires 1 transformer, and each controller and each transformer does not require a relay. So you're clearing up some space on the relay side of your controller, and you've got less transformers in order to control zones. The only question I don't remember is how many controllers we can actually throw into on the app, how many controllers the app can control, and I'm sure somebody else can answer that for me.
Rick, this is Jeff. Yeah, good question. There's not a limit on the number of controllers that you can put on the Pentair Pool app. They just show up as different devices on the app, like an automation center or a pump or something else would.
We've got another question. For more basic pools, how can pool and landscape lighting take these pools to the next level?
Kurt, you want to handle that? I feel like we touched on it quite a bit. It's really the first thing of any consequence that makes every pool, I think, going to be better instantly is the ability to dim the pool. We still want to light the water and light that portion of the yard, but take any backyard pool with bright lights in it today, change them to these lights, regardless of the colors and the shows and all the other awesome benefits of them. If you dim them down, I think just naturally that whole composition comes together better. So you'll feel a totally different comfort level and vibe of the backyard, and not, like we talked, not focus on this box of water, potentially, whatever the shape might be. It takes away from everything else. It'll allow us to put all these new fancy features in. If you're throwing parties and pool parties, you got all this dynamic lighting. But as I spoke earlier, you're using that pool maybe 5% of the time swimming. The other 95% of the time, we can properly set light levels within the poolscape and the backyard. And now we've created a much better composition for the entire yard.
Yeah, absolutely. The pool lights to date have been to the equivalent of the floodlight on the corner of the patio, where the flood the yard with light, motion detector, they were so bright that they overpowered the scene. They were highly functional. So now don't miss out on the significance of dimming the lights, because that's, assuming you've designed a background and you've illuminated it beautifully, now you don't have to overwhelm it with the pool. It can all work together. And if you haven't yet taken on the role of designing the backdrop in your yards, you're more pool centric. In that environment, the pool needs to be brighter because it's the only player. But I invite you to start considering all the layers and hopefully become an outdoor living designer where pools are part of that experience. And dimming the light is going to be a significant part of that. We now have that available to us. Thank you.
This is a great follow-up. What can I suggest to customers who don't want all the bells and whistles?
Simplicity is the most powerful thing of all. If you can do 1 or 2 things extraordinary well, that's how you create impact. I mean, just think of some architectural icons in the world of, the Washington Monument. It's a long rectangle with the spire at the end and the trees that lead your eye up to that. How strikingly graphically simple is that? The pool's ultra simple, if that were a backyard setting. The most simple setting can take your breath away if you compose it right and you light it right. That's it. And so even understated yards can be more powerful and compelling if you strip them down to the essence and make those moves really well.
Makes sense. Any future trends that we should be on the lookout for in regards to pool lighting?
Is that for me or Kurt? I'm not sure. I mean, I think I think the missing part, and I think somebody brought it up here too, in the lighting world in the pool industry is some perimeter lighting or undercoping lighting. And so I don't know where Pentair stands on those items. There's a few product marks in the market. None of them, in my mind, are appear durable or last a long time. They're really tough to hide, and some of that goes against part of the science and the art of what me and Kurt have been talking about, is not trying to focus too much on any single element. But I think that's something we're going to probably see more in the future, becoming at least more readily available. Obviously, lighting parts and components have gotten drastically better over the years, and their quality level, their longevity, and their flexibility. So I would see that being something that becomes something in industry. I think if we could start a trend, I think the trend would be quit paying attention to the pool only, right, and pay attention to everything in your environment, and use the lighting systems at your disposal. I don't think enough pool builders and designers take lighting into account. They haven't had much flexibility in the first place, and therefore they just didn't worry about it. They had to throw a couple lights in there. It's, code required, so here's a light, let's move on. I think good quality design, taking advantage of all the opportunities that are out there with lights and putting them in the right places and managing correctly would be very helpful. And I think that's the key takeaway is do that first.
Yeah, that's my challenge to the R&D department, is if you can come up with the linear lights that can be submerged so that we could hide them. Like if you could hide them underneath the stepping stone underwater, you won't see their reflection. The killer of those LED strip lights that are above water, even if they're hidden under a coping, is you see their reflection as soon as you put water in the pool, and they're that glaring neon strip around, which is very magnetic to the eye and distracting. So that would be our next achievement in lighting. If we guys, when can you roll that out for us?
Thanks, Kirk. That's great feedback. Definitely something for us to look into and evaluate for future products. Thank you.
That would be the next level of game changer for us.
I'm looking at least 20 questions. We'll get to what we can. One I wanted to step in and answer maybe myself is from Christy Collins, who asked, can we get a copy of the webinar to rewatch? And the answer is yes. All registered attendees can receive that. Usually it's about 48 hours, but we'll get those out. Terrence Thornton asked, can the Nano be installed without a plastic trim ring around it? For instance, an all-tile pool application.
So the Nano is installed in its own custom niche. There are 3 different niches available for the different types of pool construction, vinyl liner or gunite or fiberglass. And the niches are very low profile, but they do require, the Nano does require to be installed in this custom niche.
Excellent. What are the advantages of color LED lighting?
Oh, great question. So color lighting, before LEDs, color lighting could really only be achieved by using a filter over an incandescent light. Incandescent lights are very inefficient in converting electricity to light in general, but then when they created, when they would produce white light, it would be, white light is a combination of all the different colors. So then a filter would have to be used to filter out all but the one desired color. So very inefficient light source, and then you're filtering out most of the light anyway to get whatever color you want. LED lighting is much better in that it's much more efficient than incandescent to start with in converting electricity to lumens, but also LEDs produce only the specific wavelength of light that they make. So it's a blue LED or a red LED or a green LED. So no filtering then is required, which makes it much easier to light up a pool in different colors using LEDs in and not much energy versus the way it was done before with incandescent lights. So you can much more easily light up a pool with colors using a lot less power with LEDs than incandescent.
Jeff, there's a question about pool finishes impacting the lighting at all, and that's a very important question. That's one of we talked earlier about getting some lumens off these light fixtures. Although that's important information, it doesn't reflect how that's going to be seen by the eye and how much a lot of lighting that's experienced is because of the surfaces around it, and the swimming pool environment is a totally different environment than any other type of lighting. So when we see light spread and lumens information on landscape lighting or parking lot lighting or fixtures for a home, that information can be pretty much systematically used exactly how it's put together. But when we talk both colors and lumens, when we get into a swimming pool, if we've got a white plaster pool and we put a 15 lumen light in there, it'll look drastically less bright in a dark colored interior. So that's back. I keep harping on dimming, but the huge benefit of the dimming capabilities in the pool industry is we're not always going to be able to know what we're going to get. And if we're afraid we're going to overlight something, we can't put enough lights in. Well, now we're at a point where, well, I can put 1,000 lights in here and put them at 10% and probably be able to control it. So your pool finishes are, if you have a very white finish, you need less lights and farther spread. If you get in a darker interior, you're going to need more lights, but closer together. And if you what I would recommend, especially, I mean, it's not always money is some sort of important factor, but if you take kind of money out of the equation, more lighting is going to benefit you in the long term, because we can now lighten it up, change the color. Because even if you pick a certain color blue, if it's in a blue pool versus a white pool, it's drastically different, right? So it really does change that effect. And so the lumens aren't, although that's important information to start with, and it's useful to a point in a swimming pool, it's not a 1-to-1 correlation. If it's 450 lumens and in a white pool, it's going to be completely different in a dark pool. So and it also matters what kind of surfaces. If we've got a all tile pool that's got highly reflective surfaces versus a plaster or pebble pool that's got very much less reflective surfaces. So there's quite a bit to that. But having the ability to go to 15 million colors obviously fixes a lot of the problems when we talk about what color the pool wants to look like. And then when we go from a 10 to 100% dimming capability by 1 degree at a time, we can easily dial in the expectations of the pool. And so the lumens we provided earlier in this presentation is really a safety requirement level of lumens, and much more commercially related. But it's not necessarily the number you're going to want in a backyard composition, that especially projects that Kurt's been showing that look like they do. They're pieces of art. If we had them set to the lumen recommendation in white light, it would do exactly what we've told you not to do. Don't focus on that. Focus on everything.
Yeah, and those were all dark interior finishes. In particular, I think they were both Turtle Bay.
Yep.
Pebble sheen, which is not black, but a few shades up from black, a charcoal. So those were dark finishes, and they were spaced at 6 feet on center, and that eliminated the scalloping, and you had a nice even glow. And everything else was done by the eye in the field. And so even with a dark finish, the very low wattage looked amazing. So yeah, like Rick said, get the fixtures in. I'm using 6 foot on center for me personally as a spacing for getting the quotes, knowing that I'm just going to tune it in the field when I get there.
Thanks, guys. That was great. Before we close out, just want to give a quick plug for some things you can take advantage of as a Pentair customer. Keep in mind that the on-demand webinar we just saw will be available in your email inbox shortly after this call. For other questions that may pop up, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks, Scott.
Hey, just a plug for the Pentair's Partners Program. We recommend joining the program to unlock exclusive access to innovative products and business tools to empower all our dealers to elevate their businesses. It's more than just rewards. It's about building a strong partnership and support each dealer's unique goals and make success fun and achievable. Please scan the QR code or go to partners.pentair.com to learn more.
Right. And finally, please follow Pentair Pool on social media and check out Red Rock Design Build and Bianchi Design by heading to their websites. And finally, let's all give a round of applause for our speakers. That was excellent stuff.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks, guys. And that's all we have. The webinar is over, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you, everyone.